Since the launch of Early Access in October of 2020, Baldur's Gate 3 has introduced 10 D&D 5th edition classes to the game. Larian started us off with just 6, the Fighter, Rogue, Wizard, Warlock, Cleric, and Ranger. And over the course of Early Access, we watched the Druid, Sorcerer, Barbarian, and Bard be added to the game. Taking into account that Larian has said that they will be including all classes and subclasses from the 5e Player's Handbook, that leaves us with 2 confirmed and highly sought after upcoming classes that I'm going to go over in this video, but possibly 3, and I'll get to that at the end. But first, a quick message from today's video sponsor, Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 just launched on Steam for the first time ever, and this is one of the highest rated MMOs of all time. You can experience up to 200 hours of gameplay completely free, no subscription required. And they have a really awesome new player's guide over on their website. Guild Wars 2 features fast-paced action combat with a robust character creator, and you'll be able to choose from an arsenal of professions and weapons. Their latest expansion, End of Dragons, is also out now, and this expansion takes players back to the beloved land of Cantha, and it adds several other features such as fishing and the first multiplayer mount, the Siege Turtle. And note that Guild Wars 2 in general has some of the most dynamic mounts seen in current MMOs. If you sign up for Guild Wars 2 using my link in the description, you can get a free bundle that contains an item booster, karma booster, XP booster, 10-slot account-bound bag, and a Black Lion miniature claim ticket, which is a mini pet. The bundle is worth $10, perfect for any new player venturing into Tyria. Simply click on the link, go to download now to install the launcher, and then go over to account to create an account. So if you're looking to scratch that itch and join a healthy and inclusive MMO community, make sure to check out Guild Wars 2. Back to the video. If I had to choose a comment that I see much more of than most other types of comments on my BG3 videos, it would certainly be, "Where the hell's my Paladin?" Excuse me. If you are one of these people, make sure to comment that below, and I want you to know that I'm also part of this elite group. And despite our less than optimal anger management skills, we're still a bunch of heroic, virtuous, highly talented, upstanding, beautiful gamers. Fortunately for us, the Paladin class is a core class in D&D 5th edition, and it is included in the player's handbook, meaning that we will be seeing it in Baldur's Gate 3. Now, we don't know for certain if we will see it in early access or not, but it seems likely that it would come with one of the upcoming major patches before the game officially releases next year. So why is the Paladin such a sought-after class? The most simple reason is because it's pretty badass. Paladins swear to uphold justice and righteousness. They stand with the good things of the world against the ever-encroaching darkness, and they actively hunt the forces of evil wherever they lurk. Well, most paladins do. We can't forget that there are a few oathbreakers out there. Paladins are a class that have mastered both martial skills and magical divine powers alike. Most paladins are strong, and they gain their martial strength from their strength ability score and also their constitution, and they gain their spellcasting powers from their charisma. This makes half-elves, dragonborn, and Zerial tieflings outstanding racial choices for this class, and if Larian does include the variant human, that will of course fall into that category as well. Now there's also several other races that offer a strength or charisma boost, making them great choices here, but naturally paladins do tend to take the tank role, so other races that really stand out are the half-orc and shield dwarves. If you want to do a dexterity build, this of course changes things up a little bit. Now let's take a look at the Paladin table from 5th edition D&D, which is of course the table that Larian Studios will be using for the Paladin in Baldur's Gate 3. I'm going to keep everything pretty vague here because I will do individual guides in the future when we actually get access to these classes. Now you'll notice that I cut off levels 16 to 20 because it's highly unlikely that we'll be seeing those levels in the base game of Baldur's Gate 3. Who knows what they'll do in the future. We don't even know how high we'll be going, so Larian could even cut off levels 13, 14, and 15. So right away at level 1 as a Paladin, you get a feature called Divine Sense, and if you use Divine Sense, all Celestials, Undead, and Fiends in the area will be revealed to you within a 60-foot radius, I believe is what the radius is in D&D. So this could be useful in several situations in Baldur's Gate 3's early access, but I don't want to get into too many of them because of spoilers, but one example would be if you cast Divine Sense when you meet Astarion, it would likely be revealed to you that he is actually a vampire spawn. Lay on Hands is a heal for the Paladin, a heal that they can use on themselves or others, but it doesn't require a spell slot. The cool thing about Lay on Hands is that instead of using a spell slot, you pull from a limited amount of hit points that are set aside in a pool of hit points, and you can choose how many of these hit points you want to pull for a individual heal. So if you have a character that needs a really massive heal, you can pull all of the hit points out of that pool and heal that character or yourself, or if you only need like 3 or 4 points, you can do that as well. At level 2 is where it starts to get really interesting for the Paladin, and the first thing you're going to choose is a fighting style. And the choices will likely be Defense, which gives you a +1 to your armor class. Protection, if you're using a shield as a Paladin, you can impose disadvantage on an enemy that's attacking a friendly that's close to you. Great Weapon Fighter, which is a very, very popular one. If you roll a 1 or 2 when you attack with a two-handed weapon, you can then re-roll that damage roll to have a better chance of actually dealing more damage. Really, really powerful. And then we have Dueling, which if you're going to be a Paladin that wants to use a one-handed weapon and nothing in their offhand, you're going to get a little bit more damage with that one-handed weapon. Depending on what play style and what weapon you want to use will determine what fighting style that you choose. Paladins also get spellcasting at level 2, but the Paladin is not a primary spellcaster, so you'll notice that you get less spell slots, and also you don't get access to as high level spells as a primary caster does, such as the Wizard. So at level 5 as a Paladin, you'll get access to second level spells. At level 9, you'll get access to third level spells. And then at level 13, you'll get access to fourth level spells, which will likely be the highest level spell that you'll be able to cast as a Paladin in Baldur's Gate 3. It's also important to note that Paladins use prepared spells, so you get access to all of the spells on the Paladin spell list, and you can swap them in and out between combat encounters, which is how it is currently in Baldur's Gate 3 for other classes that use prepared spells. So you don't have to make like that real serious choice every time you choose a spell, because you can swap them in and out outside of combat. If we take a look at the Paladin spell list from the player's handbook, you can see it's filled with all sorts of divine type spells. You have healing spells, revivify, individual and party buffs, auras, crowd control spells, detect type spells, and of course smites that will pack a hell of a punch. And speaking of smites, also at level 2, all Paladins get access to Divine Smite, which is like the bread and butter of this class. Basically, with Divine Smite, if you use a melee attack, you can choose to expend a spell slot and deal extra radiant damage on top of your weapon's damage. And this radiant damage is 2d8 when you cast it as a level 1 spell. You also get to add another 1d8 if your target is an undead or fiend creature. This is a lot of damage for a single melee strike, and this is partly why Paladins are limited in their spell slots. Now, how Larian implements Divine Smite, we'll have to wait and see, because it does seem like they are doing a little bit of reworking with their reaction system. At level 3, this might even be more exciting than level 2, because you get Divine Health, which makes you immune to disease. That's not really that exciting, but you also get your Sacred Oath, which is your choice of subclass for the Paladin. The 3 subclass choices will be Oath of Devotion, which is your holy paladin that's really committed to justice, virtue, and order. Oath of the Ancients is your nature paladin, and these are your Fey Knights and your Green Knights. And the Oath of Vengeance paladins are your Avengers, and they're even called Dark Knights, and they're not as concerned with their own purity as they are with delivering justice to those who have committed grievous sins. Now, I also want to quickly mention Oathbreaker paladins, which is a subclass that's in the Dungeon Master's Guide, which means it's possible that it could make its way into Baldur's Gate 3, but I'm not entirely sure. So an Oathbreaker paladin breaks their oath in pursuit of a dark ambition or an evil power. It'd be really cool if we had this option in BG3, especially for that player agency of going down that more evil route. Your subclass choice will give you special subclass specific features at levels 3, 7, and also 15, and these features do reflect the type of subclass that you've chosen. There's too many to go over in this particular video. I will do it in the future for those actual guides. But one quick example is the Oath of Vengeance paladins at level 7 get Relentless Avenger, which makes it so that when they use an opportunity attack on a creature, they get to also basically follow that creature as part of their reaction. They're so committed to righting those that have done wrong that they're actually harder to run away from. Each subclass choice will also get their own list of spells that will be prepared at all times, and these spells reflect the theme of the subclass. And they also get 2 channel divinities at level 3. So channel divinities are basically like spells that don't require a spell slot, and they recharge on a short rest for paladins. Each subclass will get 2 subclass themed channel divinities at level 3. For example, the Oath of Devotion paladin can turn their weapon into a sacred weapon, giving them a boost to their attack rolls. Ancient paladins get a channel divinity called Nature's Wrath, which snares enemies in spectral vines. And Vengeance paladins get one called the Vow of Enmity, which gives them advantage on their attacks against a targeted creature. Back to the list, at level 6, paladins get Aura of Protection, which makes it so that friendlies that are somewhat close to your paladin will be more likely to succeed on their saving throws. At level 10, Aura of Courage makes it so that friendlies that are somewhat close to your paladin, I think it's 10 feet, can no longer be frightened, which can be really useful, especially in Baldur's Gate 3. And then lastly, at level 14, paladins get Cleansing Touch, and they can use an action to dispel or end a spell that's on themselves or someone else. So the paladin class, there's a lot to it. It's a really cool class. I can't wait to get into more detail in the individual guides in the future. Moving on to the monk class. Monks are a class that have mastered a magical energy that flows through the body known as ki. They harness this power within themselves to create magical effects and exceed their body's physical capabilities. Most monks gain their speed and agility and even strength through the dexterity ability score, and wisdom greatly benefits unarmored monks and also certain spells. This makes wood elves, half elves, and humans excellent choices here, as you can get a boost in both of those ability scores. But really, any race that gives you a dexterity boost can work really well here, and there's a lot of those. Strongheart halflings I should also mention, because they do stand out a bit as you get a boost to dexterity and constitution is important for all classes. Taking a look at the 5th edition table for the monk, at level 1, monks get a feature called Unarmored Defense, which makes it so that if your monk is not wearing armor and not using a shield, their armor class is equal to 10 plus their dexterity modifier plus their wisdom modifier. So this is one of the reasons why your wisdom can be really important for your monk. There's also a feature called Martial Arts, which has several different benefits. The first being that your monk will now use dexterity instead of strength for their attack and damage rolls for unarmed strikes and also strikes that use monk weapons. And monk weapons include short swords and also any simple weapon that doesn't have the two-handed or the heavy property. If we go over here to the left, you can see a column called Martial Arts followed by a 1d4 at level 1. And what this means is your monk can now use a 1d4 for their unarmed strikes damage, or also their monk weapons. But most weapons are going to be higher than a 1d4, so you probably, if you were using a monk weapon, you wouldn't want to use the 1d4 until you get to certain levels. So at level 5, you'll notice that the martial arts die increases to 1d6, and then at level 11 it increases to a 1d8. So if you are a monk that's using a 1d6 sword, at level 11, when you strike with that sword, it's going to get a damage increase to 1d8. This is mostly useful for the unarmed strikes until later on in the game. And the last benefit of martial arts is that now when you use the attack action, you can use a bonus action to make an unarmed strike. So this damage is actually pretty good for a level 1 monk, and over time you're going to see you get even more attacks. At level 2, we get the monk's ki, and the ki is represented by this column right here with a limited amount of points. At level 2 you have 2 key points, and at level 15 you'll have 15 key points. And key points can be used to fuel various key features that your monk will get access to, and right away at level 2 you get 3 of these features. The first feature is called Flurry of Blows, which lets you spend 1 key point when you use the attack action to get 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action. Patient Defense is also a key feature that lets you spend 1 key point to take the dodge action as a bonus action instead of an action like it is typically. Now dodge isn't in Baldur's Gate 3, but maybe this will be the time when they actually introduce it to the game, or maybe they won't at all. And dodge, what it does is give enemies disadvantage on their attacks against you for a full round of combat. And the third key feature that you get access to at level 2 is called Step of the Wind, which lets you spend a key point to use disengage or dash as a bonus action, and it also doubles your jump distance. So as a monk, you're going to be using key points all the time. It's kind of the bread and butter of this class. Now also at level 2, you get unarmored movement, which is represented by this column right here. And when you're not wearing armor and not using a shield, your movement speed will be increased by 10 feet at level 2. And this increases to 15 feet at level 6, 20 feet at level 10, and then 25 feet at level 14. So the monk is just really, really good at getting around the battlefield. At level 3, we get a feature called Deflect Missiles, which lets you reduce the incoming damage of a ranged attack at the cost of your reaction, and if certain conditions are met, you can actually shoot it back at an enemy at the cost of just that reaction, so that can be pretty powerful. We also get to choose our Monastic Tradition, which is your monk's subclass, and there's going to be 3 of them in Baldur's Gate 3, the Way of the Open Hand, the Way of the Shadow, and the Way of the 4 Elements. Way of the Open Hand monks are the ultimate masters of martial arts, unarmed and armed. This subclass allows your monk to manipulate an enemy's ki when you harness your own. When you use the Flurry of Blows key feature, you can cause an enemy to be knocked prone, be pushed away from you, or stop them from being able to use reactions. So you're using Flurry of Blows, but also getting this extra benefit of using the enemy's ki against themselves to have one of those 3 things occur. Now Open Hand also gets a heal and the ability to divert enemy attacks once per long rest. The Shadow Monks are monks that highly value stealth and subterfuge, and many of them may be called ninjas or assassins. Shadow Monks get to use their ki to cast certain spells such as Darkness, Dark Vision, Pass Without a Trace, and Silence, and they gain the Minor Illusion cantrip. They also get Shadow Step, which lets them teleport in dim light or darkness to another spot in dim light or darkness at the cost of a bonus action, and they get the ability to become invisible when in dim light or darkness. Way of the Four Element Monks are monks that use their ki to align themselves with the forces of creation, and they get to bend the four elements to their will. To keep it simple here, you get to use your ki to cast several different elemental type spells. It's kind of like The Last Airbender. Back to the chart, at level 5 you get Slow Fall, which lets you use your reaction to reduce fall damage. At level 5 we get Extra Attack, so when you use the attack action you can then get another attack, and the Paladin also gets this, I forgot to mention that. The cool thing about the monk is they already have a bunch of attacks with their bonus actions, so you just get a ton of attacks as a monk. You're just like Jackie Chan. Level 5 also brings Stunning Strike, and when you use a melee attack against an enemy you can use a key point to make them do a Constitution saving throw, and if they fail they'll be stunned. Level 6 we get Key Empowered Strikes, which basically just makes your unarmed strikes count as magical attacks for the purpose of overcoming resistances to physical damage. At level 7 you get Evasion, which makes it so that when your monk is successful with a dexterity saving throw, they'll now take no damage instead of half damage. Like several spells, if somebody succeeds on a dexterity saving throw such as Fireball, everybody will still take half damage, but the monk will take no damage. And Stillness of Mind lets you use an action to remove the Charmed or Frightened status effect on your monk. At level 10, monks get Purity of Body, which gives you immunity to poison and disease. At level 13, you get Tongue of the Sun and Moon, which allows your monk to understand all languages, so that probably won't really play a role in BG3 unless Larian finds a creative use for it. 14, you get Diamond Soul, which gives your monk proficiency in all saving throws, and also, if your monk wants, they can spend a key point to re-roll a saving throw. And finally, at level 15, if we even make it there, monks get Timeless Body, which is probably more of a D&D thing, because what it does is it makes your monk not able to be magically aged, and your monk also no longer needs food or water. So however that would be implemented in BG3, I'm not entirely sure. Now, I did say possibly 3 more classes, but I do think that this one in particular is pretty unlikely, but still possible, and that is the Artificer class. This is the only other class alongside the Wizard that uses Intelligence as their primary ability score. The Artificer was introduced to 5th edition in the Eberron's Player's Guide, and I'm not sure if Larian is able to use anything from that book, and even if they are able to, they already have their work cut out for them with the core 12 classes. But if this class does make it into the game, Artificers are masters of invention, and they use ingenuity and magic to unlock extraordinary capabilities in objects. This class gets to do a ton of magical tinkering with items, and they produce their spells through tools. Artificers have their own spell list, and some of the subclasses include Alchemist, Armorer, Artillerist, and Battlesmith. And that'll be it for this video. 2 really cool classes that I'm looking forward to getting my hands on. Let me know if any of you guys plan on playing as a Paladin or a Monk as your first primary character in Baldur's Gate 3. Thank you guys so much for watching. Much more Baldur's Gate 3 content on the way. I'll catch you on the next one.